Welcome to the Catholic Sobriety Podcast, the go-to resource for women seeking to have a deeper understanding of the role alcohol plays in their lives. Women who are looking to drink less or not at all for any reason. I am your host, Christy Walker. I'm a wife, mom, and a joy-filled Catholic, and I am the Catholic Sobriety Coach, and I am so glad you're here. Okay, so today's episode, my guest is Steve O'Connor of Catholics Fight Porn. He is a faith-filled Catholic coach on a mission to help newly married Catholic men break free from porn and sexual addiction so that they no longer need to feel the shame and pain that comes with it, and instead enjoy a life free from addiction. Steve found freedom from his 15-year porn addiction over a decade ago through a 12-step program and now helps other men do the same. Steve and his wife, Kristen, have been married since 2011, and they have a beautiful daughter named Veronica. In 2022, they founded Catholics Fight Porn, where Steve coaches clients individually and also provides group coaching. Welcome, Steve. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Christy. It's an honor to be on your show. I appreciate it.
Yes. So this is a little bit different because we're a podcast that's focused on mainly alcohol recovery, but addiction is addiction, and porn isn't just a men's issue either. And also, we have husbands. So I'm really happy to have you here and thankful that you're willing to share your insight with me and my listeners.
Yeah, no, I'm happy that you had me on because I know, like you said, I might be a little different than the normal guest you have on. So thank you for being open to that.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. So why don't we just go ahead and start? Steve, you can go ahead and share briefly a little bit about your story and maybe what brought you to coaching men in this way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I grew up as a lifelong cradle Catholic, a good home. I am the youngest of three boys, and growing up, we went to church every Sunday. When I got into high school, I kind of, drifted and was more into just hanging out with my friends and not deep into my faith or anything like that. The pornography, I was first exposed to pornography when I was 10. So I was in the 5th grade. I was at a friend's house. We were just hanging out, and he said, "Hey, I got to show you something." And he went to a drop-down ceiling of where his older brothers hid their pornography magazines. So, this was long before it was a few clicks away on a phone. I can remember being completely mesmerized by what I saw. As a 10-year-old, it didn't make sense, but for whatever reason, it excited my mind and I was drawn to it. And so if you fast forward a few years, I was in the junior high, I was at a different friend's house, and it was late at night and one of the adult channels came on. So this again was nothing in my house, but I found it at a friend's house. It's where I had my first, sexual release as an orgasm. And so from there, I learned how to masturbate. And that was something I would do quite regularly, along with the pornography usage whenever I could find it at that time. And so I was also in and out of relationships. They weren't very deep. And it was just one to the next. And so if you fast forward through high school, I got into college. There was a girl that I was dating that broke up with me, which was awesome because I think the Holy Spirit used that as a wedge to get into my life. She breaks up with me, and I immediately think back to the Bible that I was given on a retreat my junior year of high school. This was a tech retreat, which was called Teens Encounter Christ. It was a retreat that I didn't want to go to because I wanted to go to our high school state playoff football game. But my parents made me go on this retreat, and I'm very grateful that they did. I opened up this Bible, and it hit me. It hit me right in the face. And that sparked my conversion, reversion, however you want to call it, back into the church. And I reached out to my older brother, who's incredibly devout and faith-filled since he was a child. And he walked me along the path back into the church. He introduced me to good Catholic community. And so he also took me to a Christopher West talk on the theology of the body, where I learned that masturbation was sinful, and I learned this was wrong, and same with pornography. And so I already knew that premarital sex was wrong, and it's one of my eternal regrets is that I engaged in that before marriage. And so it basically, at this point, I'm in my early 20s, and it cemented the fact that what I was doing was wrong. I was really motivated to change, but the problem was I didn't know how to change. I did not know how to not look at porn and how to not act out. I then meet the woman that became my wife, and when we were dating, for whatever reason, I disclosed this to her. I think I did not want to go into, I thought she was the one, and I didn't want to mess it up. I thought, there shouldn't be any secrets moving forward. This is risky because she could leave me. But I did. She was very gracious in hearing it and understanding. Some months later, she heard a talk on the devastating effects of pornography on marriage by a Catholic therapist. And so she knew I did not have victory in this department. She questioned me about it. And that came off of a very low where I went to visit a priest, a dear friend of mine that I had at the Newman Center in college. And we had a great Newman Center. It was very strong and vibrant. Yeah, I went to stay with this priest in his community. And he had heard my confession so many times in college. We had dinner on a Saturday night. I went to my separate room. And then, he said, yeah, you'll serve mass for me in the morning. I said, great, that'd be an honor. Lo and behold, I'm on my BlackBerry device with that scrolling ball, and I'm looking at images again, and I'm acting out. And I was just completely against my will, completely unwanted. And then I was in such shame. I did not have the courage to tell this priest friend that I had acted out. So I did not get the penance that I needed in order to receive communion worthily. It was just, the shame was so deep. Ironically, when I got home that night was this conversation with my wife. So, I see God working through everything, once I step back and step away from it all. But in the moment, I was in such desperation that when my wife said, you got to get help, it was exactly what I needed, what I wanted to hear. It was a huge relief to me. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll call tomorrow. And I did. And then went to the therapist. The therapist said, I want you to go to SA, which is Sexaholics Anonymous. It's a 12-step group for porn and sexual addiction. And so that's how I got into recovery. I don't know if you have any questions up to this point. I can finish it off, but.
No, it's great. I mean, I'm so glad that you are in a place, I'm sure you are too, and your wife is, that you are in a place to receive her suggestion. I think that's so big because a lot of us who have struggled with addiction, people can tell us, you have a problem, you need to get help, you need to do this, you're messing up your life. When we're not in a place to receive it, then a lot of times we're like, yeah, they're just nagging me. But you were at a spot in your life that, she was planting those seeds and she suggested it. And you were like, yeah, that is what I needed. And that is like the main thing when we love someone who is struggling with addiction. We have to know that they can't just do it for us. They have to do it for them if it's going to last and sustain. So go ahead and you can finish off your story. How did all of this bring you to coaching?
Yeah. So what had happened was I got into recovery, and so I was doing therapy and these 12-step meetings every week. And then I had my stumbles and falls along the way. That was painful.
Mhm.
But after years, it stuck. And so I'd been sponsoring others. I still sponsor people. I still go to meetings for my own personal recovery. But this was probably a little over, well, just about 3 years ago. A friend of mine in recovery, he does coaching, and he suggested that to me. And I thought, well, that'd be great. I would love to do more of this kind of work. So I think for two reasons. I just remember how painful it was for me, how stuck I was. It was this one area in my life that just wasn't getting better no matter what I tried. It's like that saying that my own best thinking got me into this, like everything I tried didn't work. I remember how painful it was, and I don't want others to stay stuck.
Right.
And I think the second reason is I love seeing the growth. When someone comes in brokenhearted and they're a mess, I love just seeing them grow over the years. And so that's how I got into coaching. Yeah.
A lot of people know, most of my listeners, pretty much everybody knows that about Alcoholics Anonymous, or even, Narcotics Anonymous and all of those, but not a lot of people know that there's is it Sex Addicts Anonymous? Is that one of the things I loved about Alcoholics Anonymous is the incorporation of God into the steps, because I really needed that. And that propelled my reversion. So are they the same to your knowledge?
Yeah. So it's Sexaholics Anonymous, and it's modeled after Alcoholics Anonymous. So, where step one says I was powerless over alcohol, we say I'm powerless over lust.
Oh, okay.
And so lust covers this big umbrella. Many in the rooms share pornography as kind of a baseline. Most people have that in common. You'll have some guys, they go to strip clubs. Some guys go to video stores. Some guys, it's just all internet nowadays. Other guys, they might go to massage parlors. It might be sexting. It might be video chats. It might be dating sites. You can find it through video games, and so there's lust is a big umbrella for the guys in the room, but you do find that we all share so much in common, is that we have these wounds that typically come early on in our life, and then how we deal with that emotional discomfort, negativity, or even how we celebrate the high highs in our life is, you might take a drink because you're celebrating a promotion. You might take a drink because someone else got promoted before you did,
Right.
Or you might just take a drink because it's a Tuesday, and so it's the same with acting out, But yeah, I love the incorporation of God into the 12 steps as well. Step 2, believing that God can heal us. Step 3 is turning our will and our life over to him. That's amazing. And then, you take inventory. You ask God to remove your defects of character. You make amends. You do daily inventory, daily amend. What is it? When we're wrong, we promptly admit it, for step 10. So that's incredible, because now you do something wrong, you make amends as soon as possible. And then 11 is prayer and meditation. And 12 is carrying the message, like sharing the good news, that Jesus charged the apostles with. So, and I think that's where both you and I are at, is this 12-step work of carrying the message to the one who still suffers.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So it actually has very Catholic connotations to it. And I know that Alcoholics Anonymous does have some Catholic founders and principles in it, even though they try to make it broad to include everyone. I mean, even non-believers, they try to let them make whatever is their higher power. But when I got to step 4 and 5, I did not go to confession for years, and I asked my sponsor about that, and she was not Catholic. in hindsight, I wish I had sought out a Catholic sponsor, but I didn't know anything. So can you talk a little bit about how you approach those steps as a Catholic man, but also in, doing your 12-step program?
Yeah, step 4 and 5 was crucial for me. How do I use the word that's not, it was such a special time because you set aside this open-ended time. I met with my sponsor, say you meet him at, 6:00 in the evening or something, and it's an open-ended time. There's no time limit. The sponsor listens for similarities to relate, but more so part of the beauty is to just confess our sins to someone else, anyone else. That can be a priest, that can be a sponsor, that could be a rabbi, or different people. But it was incredibly helpful for me. You go through your resentments, so people you resent, and I went back to my earliest memories. So this was school, growing up in school, and you make a list of fears and different fears you have, and then you go over sex and different sexual encounters you've had. So one of the beauties in that is, say, so you pick a resentment, you write down who you resented, why you resented them, how it affects me. Maybe this affects my self-esteem, or maybe it affected my personal security or whatnot. The fourth column was my favorite, which was my mistake. So it's basically, what's my part in this? Why am I resenting them? And once again, it could be someone got a promotion over me. Well, what's my mistake? My mistake is resenting this other person who did nothing wrong. Or it's resenting the boss who didn't give me the promotion, And maybe my mistake is that I was lazy. Maybe I could have worked harder when I didn't, So same with resentment. My mistake is usually a lack of trust in God. It's usually relying on myself, and I am weak and defective on my own. So I have to bring God into the equation, So, but it was incredibly helpful and healing, and it helps me to this day, where if I'm struggling with someone, it helps me kind of break down why am I struggling with them? What did they do? How's this affecting me? And once again, what is my part in this? And then I can work on attacking my mistake and fixing that with whether it's a better mindset, whether it's taking actions. Like I said, if I was prone to laziness in some department, I need to be more diligent, and basically work on the virtues to overcome the vices that show up.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for fleshing that out, because it's nice to have the differentiation. Like, we definitely need to confess these sins to a priest, but when you're working the program with a sponsor, it can go even more in depth. And then you can really examine it on your own and kind of do your mind work around that. And then you can also get absolution and then be in good standing that way. But really, it's all about just, shame can't hold us. The devil can't put those things in our brain like, you did this. Oh, remember when you did this? And you were so bad when you did this, because we've already shed light on it. People already know about it, and it doesn't really affect us. It's has no power over us anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of like when it's in the darkness, it will attack us. It will take over. It'll spread like wildfire, But once we do put that light on it and we bring it out to someone else, sponsor and then priest, I think what happens is the power that it has over us is released and it's gone. And I've heard it from many others as well, that they thought they would take something to the grave. How could I tell someone that I did X, Y, or Z? And for years, they don't tell anyone. And then they finally come to this step, which it shouldn't take them years to get to that step. But their whole process, they've been holding on to the secret for years. And once they let it go, they have a newfound freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Even a deeper level of freedom. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's an amazing thing because we hold it in because of shame, like you said.
Yeah.
It's like, if so and so really knew I was doing X, Y, and Z, they wouldn't hang out with me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that's shame, because
Yeah.
a good friend wouldn't leave you. A good friend would help you. And so you say, okay, well, if someone does leave me for that reason, then perhaps they're not as good of a friend as I thought they were.
Right now, alcohol feels like the only way that you can cope with the stress of motherhood, social pressures, and maybe even fit in with your group of friends. But you're starting to realize that it's leaving you feeling ashamed, disconnected, and maybe even out of control. Imagine if you could wake up each morning feeling at peace and proud of the choices that you're making and free from the pressure to drink, whether that's at home or in social settings. And that, my friend, is where my 5-day sacred sobriety kickstart comes in. By the end of the 5 days, you will feel more peaceful and in control because you will have more clarity and confidence around your decisions to take it or leave it. You're also going to learn how to manage your mind in a way that is aligned with your faith. You will learn how to speak truth over yourself, and that will help you root out what's keeping you stuck. So check out my 5-day sacred sobriety kickstart and gain the clarity you need to make the decision to take alcohol or leave it from a place of peace. You can visit my website, thecatholicsobrietycoach.com. I have a pop-up there, or just go to my show notes. Well, and our culture likes to make shame like this bad thing, but it's actually very healthy because it tells us inside of ourselves, like we need to, like you said, release it. We need to get it out. We need to shed light on it. So shame is like pain. If you get a scratch, you have pain. So you're going to put antibiotic cream, you're going to clean it, you're going to put a Band-Aid on it. And the same is true with shame. That's our open wound. And we need to have it healed so that we can move on. And I think that is so, so important for people to know. And also, you said something else, when we release it, right? So I went to confession many times and I got absolution, and yet I held on to some of the things because I didn't release it until one day somebody said, "Are you saying that God isn't powerful enough to forgive you?" And then I was like, oh, okay. So then I had to go confess that and everything else. But it was a good confession. And then I finally was able to release it. So it's kind of a 2-part thing, I think.
Yeah, it's almost like we have to give it away. Like we have to give it to God. I think it's one thing to verbalize it, and it's another thing to hand it off and choose to be free from it. Choose not to stay stuck in it, not to wallow in self-pity or the self-esteem issues, is to give it to God, accept that we are wounded, broken people since the fall of Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
And then just humbly move forward, in doing the next right thing.
Yep. I like that. Just do the next right thing. So something I was thinking about last night, and we kind of mentioned it before we got hit record, but Steve and I are not the most popular people in the room for a variety of reasons, right? Because we're faith-filled Catholics, and so not everybody in our world thinks that that's like the best thing ever. And then, he helps men that struggle with addiction. So he's saying that porn is, you shouldn't do it, but yet our culture says it's healthy, it's good for you, it doesn't hurt anybody, and all of these things. And then here I am saying, oh, you should drink less or not at all. And our culture is saying you should drink to, cope with motherhood. You should drink to celebrate, like you were saying, Steve, you celebrate or cheer yourself up or just for fun or whatever it is. And some people even say it's healthy, which is ridiculous, but whatever. The same is true for porn though. How do you see the way that our culture is moving, Steve, in regards to, do you see like a positive shift, or do you think we still have a lot of work to go to change hearts and minds?
Yeah, it's a good question. I do think there's more and more people like us getting in this space to help, So that's great, because when I started, like I said, I Christopher West was super helpful. I can remember Jason Everett being super helpful. I don't think Matt Fradd's book was out yet, the porn myth. And all these resources that are out there now, I did not know about. Had zero idea of how to actually live the message that they were preaching.
Right.
And so I think, so a lot of help has come with addiction, but I would say that our culture is degrading by the minute. You turn on a TV, you watch the commercials, you turn on a game, you see the cheerleaders. So I do think it's everywhere. I think you have to be more diligent now than ever. Like I said, I had to go find a magazine or a video
right
to look at porn. That was hard enough. But now almost everyone has a phone, and the ages of it being, I think first age of exposure averages right around 8 years old. So, and that's much more powerful than me seeing at 10-year-olds, not knowing when I'd see a magazine again. Many 8-year-olds have phones now, so they can sadly get worse and worse and worse. And this addiction can get stronger and stronger and stronger at a much younger age. So, and kind of the first part that you were bringing up was just addiction and recovery. And I think it would be great to normalize recovery, because there is a stigma like, oh, well, so-and-so is an alcoholic. So it's like, okay, well, that's a label, right? And then, well, Steve, he's a sexaholic. It's like, okay, well, does culture think I'm a pervert, or is this just something that I was exposed to that I struggle with that I don't want any part of, And so that actually kept me from doing something for years, because I didn't want to tell a friend. I didn't want to tell my family because it's embarrassing, it's shameful. And I think God has worked through me to just show me that, I'm actually just like everyone else. This is what I struggle with. Other people may struggle with other things. We have 7 deadly sins, right?
Right.
So they could struggle with any, lust is my main one. So does that make me worse than the person who struggles with envy? I don't know. I think it's up for God to decide. But I would love to see recovery normalized. The fact that a lot of people struggle with porn. Sadly, the statistics are raising at rapid rates for women struggling with porn. And there's a certain website, a certain pornographic website that gets over 80,000 visitors every second.
Oh my gosh.
Not every minute, not every hour, not every week, 80,000 people a second. So there's over 40 million websites. And so it's everywhere. It's a couple clicks away. So yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard to fight against it, but then it's like, we just got to have the fortitude and just fight the good fight and just speak out, because you're right. I mean, when I got sober 26 years ago, there was like hardly any non-alcoholic options. And now there's like all kinds of like crazy things out there of wine and champagne and spirits and everything that are non-alcoholic. And not that I don't usually imbibe in a lot of those, but they're kind of fun to have. I kind of feel like a little kid playing dress up when I do that. Porn doesn't have the same thing. You got to just stay away and keep away and develop strategies for that. But I think the more we speak out about it and speak up about it, the more people are going to take notice. And, being Catholics, we have this unique opportunity to band together and really share the message with other Catholics. And, we saw what happened with the disciples. When the Holy Spirit is in you and working through you for God's good, amazing things can happen. Transformation will occur. And I really think that, the more you and I just speak the truth, God's truth, and also just let people know, like, we're just regular people. I wasn't a bum on the street, homeless, I probably could have ended up there if I kept going, but it's one of those things. We could have ended up so much worse than we did, but by God's grace, He rescued us, He redeemed us, and now we have the obligation really to share that with others. And so I'm so glad that you're doing what you're doing, and I'll just keep doing what I'm doing as long as I have breath in my lungs and people will keep listening. It's nice to have these platforms, though, now, to help us along with that.
Yeah, it's kind of like, as the AA Big Book would say, we have high bottoms and we have 2 cars in the driveway,
right.
by the grace of God. So I am thankful that, my addiction did not get worse and that I got help when I did. I think that's our passion, is to help people. Yeah, I have a heart for married couples in their first 5 years because I want their marriage to get off to a great start. But I do work with people that have been married for 30 and 40 years as well, And so, and some people, it's so entrenched. It's been entrenched for over 50 years in them, So, but the great thing is that healing is possible. And that's, again, the amazing part of this work is seeing God transform them and seeing God work His miracles through them, watching them help their wives heal. And I think the spouse is so many times the unsung hero because, in many cases, they haven't left them. They have not divorced them, or, once again, society would say, what are you doing? Why are you still with them? But it's their deep love and it's their deep integrity for the vows that they took to uphold, their end of the marriage and relationship. And many times it's the wife that is holding the husband very accountable. And then, and working with them, it's a good 1-2 punch.
Yeah, it's nice to have that accountability and, a good reason, because you want your marriage to work and last, because that's the breakdown of society right there. Marriages are breaking up left and right, and they like to name all these different reasons, but it really comes down to the things that we as Catholics know are, that the church teaches are not right and that we should not partake in. One of those is pornography. We should not overindulge in anything. Like you said, the 7 deadly sins. Moderation is key. Maintaining a good marriage and a healthy spiritual and physical lifestyle is what will bring us fulfillment. So, like, I was just talking to another guest and we were talking about, like, society is like, oh, you're giving up all of these things, you're giving this up, but look at what we've gained. Look at the freedom that we have. I never felt free. I never felt not anxious. I don't even know how I survived in that constant state of somebody's going to find out. I have to hide this. It was horrible. And now it's just like, oh my gosh, I feel so free. And now I want everybody else to feel so free too.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's probably the devil that puts those messages in our mind that, for me, it's like, well, you can't get better. This is just what you struggle with. This is how you deal with things. But yeah, it's like once, I went into recovery. There's this saying we have is like, I stopped 1,000 times. The problem was I could never stay stopped. And so recovery helped me to stay stopped and set me on this right path. And I thought, great, once this is done, I can graduate and move on with my life. And, you know, what I've found is that it's very deep, and different things can trigger me, different things
Mhm.
could pull me back in. So it's more like maintaining it.
Mhm.
And, but what I've found is that I am better in every other area of my life because of recovery.
Mhm.
So I'm better at my job because when issues come up, I can tackle them right away. I can confront them right away. When I was acting out, I'd have an issue come up. I would gripe about it. Then I'd go look at porn because I didn't want to deal with it. Then I'd be miserable because I just looked at porn.
Mhm.
So this cycle could go for hours or even a day or two before I would tackle the issue at hand.
Mhm.
Now I get a voicemail. I may have to do a little homework on my end. And then, boom, I call the customer back, talk through it, work through it. If it's my fault, I take ownership. And if it's their fault, I let them know that too. And the
Mhm.
whole point is, how do we fix it? You know,
Mhm.
that's all that they care about. You know, the fault only
Yeah.
comes in who's going to pay the bill, who's
Mhm.
going to pay for the mistake. But you really just, how do we fix this situation? And
Mhm.
so it's helped me in my marriage tremendously. When I was newly married and very young in recovery, I would shut down. I would give my wife the silent treatment because I didn't know how to get through a tough conversation.
Mhm.
And that worked for a very short time until my wife said, okay, no, you have to start talking. And, so I had to learn how to have difficult conversations. And we have an amazing relationship in marriage. And we talk I mean, we talk a ton. I'll call her when I'm at my job throughout the day. We'll talk at night. We don't watch TV anymore ever since COVID,
Mhm.
and we just chat, and it's
Mhm.
great. It's beautiful. I'm a much better father than I ever would have been acting out because when I was acting out, it's like brain fog. I was not present.
Mhm.
Someone could be talking to me and my mind is not there. So I'm either thinking about what I want to look up next or have shame from what I just looked up and just not present. And so, yeah, recovery is just this foundation. It's like Jesus says, building your house on sand or on solid rock. And so,
Mhm.
so I'm so grateful for recovery because it allows me to get through any situation now. Basically, whenever I'm disturbed, I realize that there's something off inside of me. I start calling friends in recovery, explaining to them what's going on. They help, or they'll help me diagnose the problem, or I'll self diagnose it by hearing myself speak. And then it's like, okay, this is what I need to do. It's okay. I
Mhm.
either owe this person an amends, or I need to forgive, or I need to release that, whatever the next right thing to do is. Then you take that action, and
Mhm.
then it's gone. That awful, debilitating feeling is gone. And all of that is with God's help in
Mhm.
bringing him into the situation as well, and praying, and what is your will, Lord, and praying for the strength and courage. So yeah, it's an interesting take because, you know, your 26 years is incredible. God's
Yeah.
blessed me with 10 years of sobriety, and
Mhm.
it's just amazing seeing the person that God has turned me into. And that's not to say I'm great or wonderful. It's just to say that I'd be so much worse if
Mhm.
I wasn't in recovery. And so I have a tremendous debt of gratitude for recovery, for those who have gone before us, the Bill W's, the Dr. Bob's,
Mhm.
the Roy K's, the guys that I check in with, my sponsor, my wife, everyone who's a part of my recovery is like, I'm so thankful. And my clients, the clients I coach are incredible, and I'm grateful for them. So,
Mhm.
so yeah, I like that point, about
Yeah.
how it
Well, it just
affects.
spills. Yeah, it spills over to every aspect. And I find myself doing the same. It's funny when you're talking about like you just address things head on. And that's what I do. Like I don't want to just shove it under the rug. Like I want to address it and talk about it like right away, because it's too hard and it provides too much anxiety not to feel those feelings and emotions. And emotions are not bad. We are supposed to have them for a reason, and they are signals to us, and they tell us things about ourselves and the, situations that we're in. So that's definitely a big thing that recovery has helped with. So I am so grateful. I tell people all the time, I live my life as a thank you to God. Like I just, with everything I do and say, I just want to thank God for everything he's done for me. And that's, being able to pass this on to others like we're doing is just another way that we're not trying to glorify ourselves, but for his glory, to say, if God can work in me this way, he can work in you as well. So, but I do want to get to a little bit. You have a you have a group coaching cohort that you're putting together for men who are struggling with pornography use. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. So I have this group that will be starting up and going to go through a course that I developed called Finally Free, which is working on our problem, working on our thoughts, emotions, and feelings. We're going to work on boundaries to eliminate access to pornography. We're going to learn about helping our spouse heal. How do we help them heal and deal with the trauma from betrayal? And that could just be betrayal by looking at porn, or if there's been affairs. How do we help our wife heal? Working on, your prayer protocol, the sacraments, accountability, support, and we can do it all anonymously from home, which is great. Mm-hmm. So yeah, my website is catholicsfightporn.com. And on there, you could book a free one-on-one 30-minute call to see if it would be a good fit for you. So yeah, it's very exciting, and I think it's going to be a great thing.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. Thank you for explaining all of the different aspects of the cohort, because I think that just covers so many bases and really lays a good foundation for recovery to just flourish. So I think anybody who is feeling called to that cohort should get in touch with you. And I will definitely leave Steve's contact information in the show notes as well. So before we go, if there's a wife listening whose husband struggles with porn, how could she approach him about you and the work that you do, or maybe invite them to be part of your cohort without seeming maybe naggy, so it's received well?
I think it's a great point. How do they convey the message to their husband without forcing or pushing? But I would say for the wife to express their own emotions, like, hey, listen, when you look at porn, it makes me feel like I'm not good enough for you, or it makes me feel like you want something else besides me. I don't appreciate it. I know it's probably hard on you, and that maybe you don't choose this, even though you engage in it, and that it probably started well before the couple ever met. It probably started for the guy in most cases, not all the time, but just saying, listen, I would really appreciate it if you got help in this department. And I heard Steve on Christie's, podcast that I listen to all the time. And would you check out the link? Would you check out his website? Would you just do a 30-minute call with him? There's no obligation. You don't have to sign up for anything. You can just talk to me. We can see, is it a good fit? Do you struggle with porn? Do you want to be free? There's no shame. So yeah, I also like to consider myself as there could be someone that maybe doesn't want to go to a 12-step meeting and say that they're a sexaholic. I would suggest that, but there's also people that they do multiple groups. They do multiple programs of recovery. They're willing to go to any lengths to get better and to break free from this nasty addiction. So definitely just reach out, and I was a guy that wouldn't take the initiative on my own because you had mentioned earlier, Christy, that I was agreeable when my wife mentioned that I need to get help. But ironically, I had a friend of mine either a year or two earlier tell me about this 12-step group. And I said, oh, that's great. That's really good for you. Good luck with that. And I could have went. I could have been sober before I ever met my wife. And I wish I did. But, it worked out the way it did. My wife's an integral part of my story, and I'm very grateful to her and how it all played out. But yeah, and for wives not to be, maybe they suspect their husband looks at porn, but maybe they haven't asked him. It's a good question because it's sin in the marriage, and us guys need to be called out on it. And in a loving way is the best way, not in that nagging way. But, in marriage, you will the good of the other. Our job is to get our spouse to heaven. So if my wife was struggling with something and I could spot that, if I didn't say anything to her about it, that would be on me. I'd have to live with that. So it's tough because guys can act out and nobody could have any clue for 15 or 20, 30 years. But why not ask? And if they say, no, I don't look, well, you have that assurance that they don't look, or they're lying to you, or they're lying to you, which is still on them. So,
yeah. But it's good to ask, like you said. I think sometimes as wives or women in a relationship, even at the beginning stages of a relationship, or when we do feel like, yes, this is the one, but I'm kind of worried that maybe he does look at porn. Sometimes we don't want to ask because we are afraid that the answer will be yes. But then again, we have to be brave enough to say, okay, well, that's going to shine light on it. And now we can deal with it because we know the truth. So we can't let that fear hold us back is, I guess, the message that I want to get out.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I think a lot of times they could be afraid of the answer being the truth they don't want to know about. But I think if the wife can say, listen, I'll go on this journey with you, I'll help you. I just don't want you being stuck in it. And I may need a little bit of help myself because of how it impacts me. Your viewing of porn has an effect on me. So, the couple can grow and break free and they can come out of it much better than, the current way they're getting by.
Absolutely. And as Catholics, we have so many resources at our disposal to help us with that, whether it is, getting into a 12-step program, doing coaching, just working our recovery, but also for our marriage, we have marriage encounters. We have Retrovi for couples that are on the brink of divorce, so we do have a lot of things at our disposal, including the sacraments, which just fortify us and give us those graces that we need to strengthen our spiritual gifts and help us withstand the temptation or the struggle that come with all of this. So, well, Steve, thank you so much. I definitely want to have you and your wife on my podcast in the future. So, because I'd love to hear her part of it as well. And I think a lot of my listeners would also. So we'll definitely have you back. And I so appreciate you being here with me today.
Absolutely. And I'd love to have you on my podcast as well. And I appreciate your time. Like I said, appreciate having me on as a guest. For anyone interested, my Instagram handle is @CatholicRecovery. So feel free to check me out there. And I post a short story every day. So, hopefully you can find some benefit from that.
Yeah, he's doing great work there. So I'll also include a link to his Instagram account and website. And free discovery call if you know someone who could benefit from this type of coaching. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. God bless, Christy.
God bless you. Thank you once again to my guest, Steve O'Connor of Catholics Fight Porn. He is doing some amazing work, and I will leave his website and other information in the show notes. Well, that does it for this episode of the Catholic Sobriety Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I would invite you to share it with a friend who might also get value from it as well. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a thing. I am the Catholic Sobriety Coach, and if you would like to learn how to work with me or learn more about the coaching that I offer, visit my website, thecatholicsobrietycoach.com. Follow me on Instagram at the Catholic Sobriety Coach. I look forward to speaking to you next time. And remember, I am here for you. I am praying for you. You are not alone.